Now that the polls are closed and Governor Newsom has been projected to survive the recall election, we're taking a look at how certain groups of Californians voted.
An exclusive Inside California Politics exit poll asked Californians a series of questions after they voted today. Crown 4's Ella Sogamonian live in our newsroom breaking down some of their answers. Ella.
Pam and Ken, we've talked about the issues that mattered most to voters. COVID-19 topped the list, as well as the ability for Governor Newsom to lead. Now we're learning more about the people who voted. So let's get to those demographics now. Take a look. First, we asked if voters chose to keep Governor Newsom in office or recall him, and then their registered party affiliation. A majority of registered Democrats voted to keep Governor Newsom in office. 91.6% voting no on the recall. 8.4% of registered Democrats voted to remove him. 73.8% of registered Republicans voted to remove Governor Newsom, but 26.2% of Republicans actually voted to keep him in office. Independent voters were more split, with 54.2% voting to keep Newsom and 45.8% of independents voted to recall him. We also asked voters their gender. 65.6% who identify as male voted to keep Governor Newsom in office, and 34.4% chose to recall him. 64.1% of female voters opted to keep Governor Newsom in office, and 35.9% wanted to recall the governor. 48.2% of voters who identify as non-binary or other voted to keep Newsom in office, and more than half in that group chose to recall him. Governor Newsom did well with every age group in this exit poll. Taking a look, 75.9% of voters between 18 and 34 years old chose to keep Governor Newsom in office, and 24.1% chose to boot him out. In the 35 to 49 range, 61.1% chose to keep Newsom, and 38.9% chose to recall him. And the 50 to 64 range, 62.2% chose to keep Governor Newsom, and 37.8% chose to recall him. And the 65 to older range, 63.6% chose to keep him, 36.4% chose to recall. We also asked voters what their education level was. 62.4% of voters who had no college-level education voted to keep Governor Newsom in office, and 37.6% chose to recall. 66.9% of voters with a college degree or higher chose to keep the governor, and 33.1% chose to recall. Finally, we've asked voters for their ethnicity. 70.1% of voters who identified as Hispanic or Latino of any race voted to keep Governor Newsom in office, and 29.9% chose to recall. 60% of white voters had to keep him in office, and 40% wanted to recall him. 72% of voters who identify as Black or African American voted to keep Newsom in office, and 28% chose to recall. 74.7% of voters who identified as Asian American or Pacific Islander chose to keep Newsom, and 25.3% chose to recall him. And more than 52% of voters who identified as other or multiple races chose to keep Newsom in office. 47.9% chose to recall the governor. Pam and Ken, a lot of statistics there for people to break down. Back to you.
All right, a lot to go through. Thank you, Ella.
Thanks,